Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our series on evangelism. I am St. Louis Pastor Paul, and last time we spoke about just try it, just try and do evangelism and learn by experience. And likewise, I'm just trying to be a YouTube pastor in a sense, casting videos in that way, and I'm new to this thing. So if you notice the last video, the video was stuck up in the top left corner of your screen. And you know what? I just tried it and I learned from my mistake, and now hopefully this time it looks like we've got the video on the entire screen. So that's what I mean by just trying things. It's if you sit and plan all day, you won't get anywhere. You'll probably gain some valuable knowledge, but if you don't ever try, there's always a learning. There's always a growth process. So just as I am learning to do this with modern technology, so also you need to take what I teach and try it, because the Bible isn't meant to be studied, it's meant to be lived. So today, talking about evangelism, we're going to talk about pretty much a prerequisite for evangelism, and that's a relationship with Jesus. And I want to be real cautious here, because this really isn't a problem for new believers, okay? If you believe in Jesus, you can tell people about Jesus. It's that simple. So don't let this scare you away from trying to talk to non-believers about Jesus, because that's really what evangelism is. Evangelism is telling non-believers about Jesus. It's when believers talk to non-believers about Jesus. That's all it is. And I think that sometimes newer believers in the faith can say, oh, I don't have a good enough relationship with Jesus to talk to other people about him yet. That's not true. If you believe in Jesus, you can talk to him or talk about him to other people. And I'd like to remind you of the thief on the cross in Luke 23. So in Luke 23, 39, Jesus is hanging on the cross, and one of the criminals that was hanging next to him says, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." And so he's kind of insulting Jesus. And then the other thief rebukes the first thief, and he says, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due reward of our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong." So the second thief defends Jesus, and he says, dude, lay off the guy, okay? We're getting what we deserve when we die as thieves. This man's an innocent man. And then the second thief says to Jesus, he says, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus says, "Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." So here you have a thief on the cross dying next to Jesus that knows very little about Jesus. Although you must admit, having faith in Jesus that he's going to have a kingdom when he's still dying, that shows tremendous insight. But at the same time, the duration of his relationship with Jesus is very short. He hasn't known Jesus for very long at all. He probably, met Jesus for the first time that day as they're being executed. Yet he's willing to talk to non-believers about Jesus and to stand up for Jesus in the face of non-believers. So if you're a newer Christian and you're thinking to yourself, I really don't know Jesus well enough to talk to others about him, that's not true. If you believe in Jesus, you can talk to non-believers about him. So if you're a new believer, I would encourage you, don't let the newness of your faith scare you away from talking to non-believers about Jesus. And then on the flip side of that, if you're a pastor or in Christian ministry in one way or another, sometimes Christian ministers can become so focused on evangelism that they stop investing in their relationship with God. And so, Jesus says that if you love me, you will obey my commandments. And so I would encourage you, don't stop obeying the Bible. Don't start sinning so that you can share the gospel, because there are preachers that do that. There are preachers that involve themselves in sin to try and share the gospel. And I would encourage you that your relationship with Jesus is more important than sharing the gospel, and that, if your ministry has become the focus to the point that you basically end up becoming a salesman that doesn't use his own product, in a sense. If you're an evangelist, a Christian minister, and you are trying to market Jesus, which is a terrible concept, but if you're trying to sell Jesus to others and you don't even believe in him enough to practice what you preach, there's a problem there. And so I would encourage new believers, don't let the newness of your faith scare you away from talking to non-believers about Christians or about Jesus. And I would encourage seasoned veterans of the faith, Christian ministers of the faith, pastors and preachers. I would encourage you that if your job of preaching Jesus has become something that you talk about but not something that you do, make sure that you practice what you preach. So that's the start, the basis of evangelism, knowing Jesus yourself, and pretty basic, pretty simple. Next week, we're going to get into fellowship and how fellowship is a priority when it comes to evangelism. So thank you very much, guys, for listening. I hope to share with you some more information next time.